So when we're talking about graysexuality or asexuality, we're talking about, lack of interest or, in having rapid activities with your partner or with anybody else, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you will never have it. It just means that you're just not interested. You just don't think about it. Like you could be with your spouse and they sit next to you and it doesn't cross your mind that you should work or towards the rapid activity. So one of the biggest planets that causes this is obviously Saturn, because Saturn is restrictions, is that diminishing energy. So even when it comes to the rapid activities, it does limit or create a restrictive manner or behavior towards romance, pleasure, and the rapid activity itself, right? So it's more like focusing on fear, maybe fear that is coming from your childhood, maybe people did stuff to you when you were a child, and now that area in your life is not even like remotely important to you. You don't think about it, you don't desire it, right? And sometimes it's due to responsibilities and disciplines that would be instilled by culture, religion, family values, and all of that, right? So those are the fears that are brought by the Saturnian energy within the relationship, and it does affect when it's conjunct with with Venus, this Saturn, or when it's aspecting it. Obviously, depending on the houses, it's not all the houses, all right, but it does affect it. It can lead to like the suppression of the sensuality that Venus represents, in the relationship, like the intimacy, physical stuff, right? And of course, when it's with Mars as well, because Mars is like that libido, that energy that it just wants to get on top of you or get you underneath you. And that drive. So Saturn does restrict this and redirects the energy towards something else. But what I've seen as well is that many people with Saturn and Mars, they've either really experienced like abuse as children towards this area, or they become the abusers, whereby they take the intimacy without consent, right? So of course, in such a case, they don't do it, for the attraction or, or to the partner. They just do it, for maybe reasons of feeling empowered again in their life, or feeling like, they can be in control of their life and stuff like that. So they channel, the experiences towards the partner, like the harsh experiences towards the partner through this. However, there is no attraction, there's no love, attached to it. There's no feeling attached to it, right? So that is also falling under the graysexuality or asexuality, right? Another big one that I've seen is Chiron, particularly in the 5th house, and maybe when it's with Mars, which is something I saw actually, one of the recent shots that I did. I think it was a shot of Dua Lipa, right? Because usually when Chiron and Mars are in the 5th house, they indicate maybe an experience that you endured, which is difficult regarding this area, or just a lack a lack of interest in it, right? But I'm not saying she's like in the graysexuality category, but I'm just saying something that I saw. But anyway, this also usually comes up with Chiron in the 5th house or 8th house, because Chiron is the wounding. So because of the wounding, so it can take away that desire, to have the rapid activity, to be intimate like that. You just see people as just people, not beyond that, not attractive enough for you to feel like, oh my gosh, I want to have this experience with you, right? The background noises or screams of kids, they're my kids, but they're not with me. It's just a baby monitor. So, everybody must know that there are no children who can hear us. So we are just adults here, and this is a safe space, right? Another cause to this is Uranus, also in the 5th house or the 8th house. The thing is with Uranus, it brings a lot of unconventionality, towards a relationship, whereby they try to not do what is traditional. They try to take another route, which is different. And at times they can be detached because, when Uranus is focused on innovation and rebelling, it can then take the form of being detached from the norm, detached from the tradition. So Uranus in the 5th house or 8th house can cause, the disconnect, or like physical intimacy and all of that, right? And also at times when it's aspecting Mars, or when it's with Mars, then it creates this sense of independence whereby you feel like you don't want anybody touching on you. You don't want anybody's hands on your body. Like, you're not gonna touch me, okay? Like, you're sweating, you just came from the gym, do not touch me. Like, you just feel like, you see these things that, they just like, you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want anybody, anybody's body close to me. So it creates this independence whereby you just, your partner is there, but you don't feel dependent on them to have your release or to have pleasure. So many times, people with this, they like to pleasure themselves and to do things to themselves, privately without the partner involved. So, this is another thing that causes Graysexuality in a relationship. Thing with Neptune is that, when it's in the 5th house or in the 8th house, it brings this, spirituality or sense of spirituality, or daydreaming about the activity without necessarily doing it. Like you just stay in the clouds thinking about it, dreaming about it, but you never have the interest to physically put that desire into action. All right, so it kind of like puts that disconnect, because you're focusing on the other realm of it, like the other aspect of it, like the spiritual, the dreamy part, and so it can cause the physical disinterest, right? And at times when it's with Venus in certain houses, it can, diffuse the physical part away, whereas now the couple is just, staying on the state of just talking about it, playing around in their imagination, but never making it physical. Believe it or not, Lilith can, in the 5th house and 8th house, can make people suppress too much of their desires, because remember, Lilith is our suppressed needs, right? So maybe when you are in an environment, particularly in a social environment whereby this is shunned upon, maybe you are coming from a religion that is not, allowing people to be free in terms of their sexuality, right? You find that now people are suppressing it so much to the point that they just don't think about it, they don't want to do it. Like even in their marriages, they find it taboo. Like, we're married, then they're like, no, we must pray. Why are you feeling like you want to do stuff like this? Oh my gosh, you're sinning. Let's pray. Yeah, right. Another biggest one, which is obvious, right, is obviously Ketu in the 8th house or 12th house, right, where it just becomes so spiritual and so detached, and it just enjoys the detachment that comes, in this houses, the moksha, the liberation from the physical desires, right? So Ketu here can just be like, I'm a monk, don't touch me, don't talk to me about these things, I'm not interested in these subjects, what are you talking about? Let pray, shut it down, right? So Ketu can do that. And of course, in some instances, as I said, asexuality or graysexuality doesn't mean that you don't do it. You could still do it with your partner, but you're not there. Like mentally you're not there, emotionally you're not there. You're just doing it out of obligation because it's a marriage thing, right? But you don't have the desires, you disconnected from it, you just out of it, right? So that can happen as well. What I've seen is also that people with a Ketu aspect to the 8th house, they can actually have lots of it with different people, with multitudes and multitudes of people, but they don't feel anything. They're not attached to it. They just do it maybe out of duty or maybe to make money or stuff like this. I've seen this so many times, right? Finally, for today, we could talk about different aspects, like different combinations, right? But for today, the final one that I want to end with is air signs. Air signs, they usually, focus on the mental connection rather than the physical connections. So air signs like Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, these social signs that are always socializing with everyone, everywhere. But when it comes to this area, they can be detached because they're all about like the mental stimulation. So they can play around, talk about it, they can even do it. But in terms of like connecting physically, for them, it could be like a matter of like exploration, research, trying to see what you can do, how you can do it, where you can do it, and all of that. But in terms of the desire and thinking about it, they're not thinking about it like that, right? But it becomes part of their duty. So they're very detached, and they would rather like talk to you about it instead of like getting down to it. Now it reminds me of some comment that I got when I explained the life of a composite Aquarius. I did get a love letter. We was like, oh, I'm Aquarius, a composite ascendant. I have the best of the sexual life. And then I was like, okay, maybe you're using a tropical because by definition of the the element, like Aquarius, if you're looking at the 8th house of the Aquarius, who's there? It's Virgo. Virgo is the lackness. Virgo is the barren sign of a virgin. So when you say you're an Aquarius and you're telling me that you're having the greatest, best buku the sexuality, the sex, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe you're using another system because I've done different charts, I've spoken to different people, I've tested it many times. Virgo in the 8th house, who will be beautiful if they are having it, like the Virgo part, like the Virgo sign in the 8th house, it's gonna be out of duty, it's gonna be out of responsibility, it's gonna be like work. It's not gonna be like, oh my god, it's past, I'm explaining myself, oh my god, I'm like Venus, and not, it's gonna be a different story, So the air signs, when it comes to this part, because it's the same with the Gemini. The Gemini is got what? In the 8th house has got Capricorn. Capricorn is work. Capricorn is profession. So you could find that, some Geminis, they have it, out of duty, like, okay, we married. Okay, this is tradition. Okay, we have to do this. Okay, we have to make a family. Okay, we have to have kids. And we can't have these kids, without, going through this part, right? So, and when it comes to Libra is what? In the 8th house, it is Taurus, right? Because Libra, and then 7th house is Aries, then Taurus about what? Family, fixed values. So the Libra is going to do it, to have family, that's the best part, to have family, to grow their lineage. It's not necessarily about exploring, there's an Aquarius sign there. It's just not like that, right? Because if we're talking about a Cancer ascendant example, for example, then a Cancer ascendant is going to have fun, because in the 8th house is the Aquarius sign of exploring, of being with the community. They could even be having it with the community, having fun, sharing, all of that, just having the wildest of the wildest parts of it, right? So it's very important to look at these things from all angles, not just from your personal experience. Then you say it's for everyone. But if you have taken at least 30 charts, you have 30 charts, then you say to me, I've tested it on 30 charts, then, you know, we have a conversation here. But anyway, this is research. Everybody's welcome to have their opinions. This is how we build our communities. And I'll chat to you soon. I must go now and say ciao, ciao, and love on your partners. Get on top of your partners. Get underneath your partners. Get in front of your partners. Get behind your partners. Bond with your partners, right? Thanks, guys. I'll chat to you soon. Ciao, ciao.